When I think of my nostalgia for Golden Sun: The Lost Age, I remember some really cool improvements on the original's formula. Just about everything in the game felt bigger, but on the other side of the coin, I also remember that expansiveness causing me to lose my sense of direction on multiple occasions. And after rewatching my playthrough, I've decided to place it behind Sands of Destruction. Here's why. While playing through the game, I opted to utilize a guide for Djinn locations as well as a vague guide on where to go and what to do next should the need arise to use it. I primarily did this due to me having played and beaten the game before, so I was interested in experiencing a lot of things that I've missed out on in the past. To that effort, I got to engage in all of the optional fights, collect most of the summons, and collect all of the Djinn prior to my final fight in the Mars Lighthouse. I felt the experience was cool, although I certainly did acknowledge that my particular run-through of the game wouldn't have been the same without the assistance of the guides. In my final thoughts, I effectively stated that whatever I thought of the first game was echoed in this iteration. The combat was fun and quick, synergy was cool to interact with, and the visuals alongside the interactions with characters were all enjoyable elements. However, the puzzles once again didn't hit the mark outside of a few and various optional dungeons, and likely the biggest issue of everything was navigation. I remarked that without the usage of a guide, I struggled to think how I was supposed to know where to go to progress the story. While it wasn't a significant issue this time around, I could have very much imagined myself getting lost and being stuck for many sequences. With all that said though, I did enjoy the game, and despite feeling Alex was underutilized, had fun. The rewatch was extremely unsuccessful though. Many aspects really stood out as not being improvements over the first game or just strange decisions. That coupled with my over-reliance on the guide made it for a very poor watch. For example, the choice to turn Felix into a silent protagonist was quite baffling considering he had a voice, and a vocal one at that, in the first game. This created a jarring transition between the games that just didn't get better as the time went on. The lack of direction was also not enjoyable to witness. The story itself was very loose on its action items, and just to be given the mission of find a boat was very nebulous considering the amount of places we had access to in the beginning. On top of that, having to revisit areas in the game to acquire secrets or quest items was extremely overused. Little things like inventory space always being a problem, having to explain synergy to every major town we visit, the game introducing old or optional synergy puzzles without any tutorials or reminders, and getting a teleport synergy in the final dungeon of the game just felt unnecessarily annoying. Based on memory, I ranked Golden Sun: The Lost Age at 47 out of 117, and I definitely think nostalgia has greatly affected this game for me. I believe it's clear to me that it's not the better game than its predecessor, and that just sounds crazy on a surface level. Golden Sun: The Lost Age offers a considerable amount more content, from Djinn to side quests to optional dungeons and bosses to locations, and even adds new things on top of all that like new summons and synergy. It gives you a squad of 8 people who you can customize in a variety of ways, and even adds unique class-changing items to add further depth and complexity. It goes above and beyond the first installment, but perhaps that scope is where it falters the most. In an effort to be such a big, expansive game, the navigation suffers. The story of Golden Sun isn't its strong suit, and that is exacerbated tenfold in this sequel. While still important, it's less that the game doesn't offer much direction, and more that the game provides too many locations that can be visited, spread across a huge world map. This navigational issue is so egregious that someone could get stuck in the first portion of the game, or even get stuck when forming the Trident. The idea of having to visit literally every town, dungeon, and cave with a fine-tooth comb to hopefully find something you missed so you can progress the story is the downfall of this game. In fact, while working on the encounter report for this game, that is exactly what happened. I witnessed people playing the game blind, having no idea where to go and what to do. One person missed out on a crucial dungeon in the early game, which effectively meant that they couldn't progress until they backtracked to a place they had felt they were thorough with. That is why I'm going to place it behind Sands of Destruction. Even if my past self mitigated this issue by having a guide, it doesn't erase the issue. Its story falls short, and its gameplay, despite a very strong showing of its combat, just can't be considered fun if the only saving grace it has is the hundreds of fights I'm trying not to do.